Welcome to Murphy, Sam, and Jody after the show.
Guys, I'm sorry to dig so deep and crack you open today, but we're going to talk about what it must be to be a man. I want to bring something up that I have noticed from both of you.
What?
For years, I've known this about Murphy. Having, been married for a long time and living with Murphy, and Murphy is expressive. Sam, you said something, was it yesterday? And then again today.
Oh, yeah, I'm great. I'm happy to be alive.
That's not, I've never heard you say that.
You say it with such conviction.
What a great day this is. Another one to get started. No, not that either.
No, you said yesterday more than once, you said, God, do you just ever have a day where it's not firing, nothing's working, it's just, you were in a fog.
Yeah. I was having, it's like whatever I said didn't click, whatever the thoughts I tried to put together weren't working. I wrote stuff down and it still didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah. And to hear you sort of complain about that, I know you've done that before, but the way you did it was just so clearly expressed. And Murphy does that too sometimes. And it's like, I think that you guys, and maybe men in general, it's a reason why men are such bad patients, are so bad at being sick. You expect to be on 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
And that's not realistic. It's just not. You can't forgive yourself for not being the best every day.
I know, and I know Murphy probably has a more of a perfection streak than I do.
Yes.
But it's like there's things like that when it's not clicking, and it's like, I know better. This is an off day. I know.
So you're hard on yourselves.
Yeah,
in ways that I didn't realize.
Because I want it back to where it's supposed to be, straight.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the more you try to get it back on track, the worse it winds up being.
It's like trying to oversteer a car.
Yeah.
It's funny to me because we all have those days. All human beings have those things happen. It is a normal part of the human process. But when it happens to me, I just accept it. I'm like, I'm just having an off day. It's not a good day for me to do this.
I think. Well, this is going to sound psychological. I think
this is psychological.
Yeah, it's a survival thing. It's probably one of these things that is thousands of years in the making.
Cool. I love it.
As hunters, providers, or whatever. I mean, it's kind of like you can't stop. You have to stay focused.
You can't have an off day.
Vigilance and those kind of things, I think, probably were important things at that time. I mean, the world's a different place now.
Yeah.
But we're
not going to starve if you have an off day.
Correct. Right. Exactly. Yeah. But it's, see, that's a perfect point, right? If I were responsible for catching all of the food that we ate all day, every day, right? Exactly.
You're not a hunter. It's unless you're a fisherman.
It would be mice and possums.
It'd be killing, not catching. But yeah.
But because it's just like our old boss Chris used to say: you snooze, you lose. So I think maybe that's what the self-imposed pressure is, and everybody's a little bit different. Look, there's some people that are so well adjusted and certainly more balanced than I am, that can reset. They can kind of reset the mental space and do like you're saying, Jody. Okay, it's just a day. We'll try again tomorrow or whatever.
Right. You have to trust that you're going to have it back because you will.
Yeah, and I guess we do forget that we're humans and we're off. But what really does it doesn't solve every problem, but it does help me a lot, is when I do those meditation things. No joke, that 10-minute meditation thing, which is really, it's not about chanting and making sounds. It's about,
thank goodness,
it's about focusing on nothing, basically, is what it is that as thoughts come into your head, because, I mean, think about if you catch yourself, when you start, we're all like this.
Yeah.
What do we have to do next? You can be sitting there and an idea hits you and you immediately emotionally connect to it without even being conscious of it, And so I make it worse on those days, I think, where I'm doing what Sam says, where it just nothing seems to click. So you try harder, but because you try harder, you've introduced an emotional component to it, and because you've introduced that to it, then you really,
it's worse. It snowballs.
You can't think clearly, right, when you're that emotional. Correct, exactly.
Yeah.
With me, you want
I do want you guys to let's acknowledge this so you guys can get better at it.
It's because of, and I'm not there yet, but it's because of age, and I know where my life is going. I know my dad had issues later in life.
What with clicking? Things clicking and firing on all?
Yeah, not, it was like early onset dementia, or just like you could tell things like Dad's not right. He's still there, but it's like every now and then things didn't click.
Okay.
Really? I didn't realize that.
So for you, that's a real worry.
Yeah, and not just because my dad, because you just know. I mean, I'm a human being. I know as I get older, things are going to fail and things are going to not be as up to par. Mm-hmm. And I want to hold on to the way it's supposed to be as long as I can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because just like that, if I start losing little things here and there.
That's why. Oh, God.
Mentally, to me, it's like, oh, no, is it starting? Is this starting? I've had some in the past.
So it's worst case scenario for you.
Yeah, Eeyore-ish. Running through the Eeyore filter. And this is like over the past few years, when little things happen, it's like I've got to stop myself and tell myself, no, this isn't it. It's not starting. It's just a little blip.
Okay. So, but I don't really remember your dad being in that place, but I mean, I didn't.
We weren't around his dad.
Not very much, but I mean, I knew your dad when he was in his early 70s, I think, and he seemed to be fine. I mean, you could have a conversation with him.
Oh, yeah, you can have a conversation with him, but the thing is, if you've known him your whole life, you know that that little thing is off, and this little thing he doesn't do right, and that. It's
you have
just
to know him well to know nuances.
Yeah. And, and talking to my mom, she was like, yeah, and this was happening, and this was happening. And, it wasn't like, he left a dog in the car and forgot about it. Stuff like that. It's just like little things.
When Murphy was on that migraine medicine, I thought, oh, if this is our new normal, whoo, it's big gaps.
We joke around here. We have our own little term for it here based on something that happened in my life, the jelly
moment. When
I could not remember, it was like we were having dinner. This was like
breakfast,
5-10 years breakfast. And it was like, hey, you want some and it's like, it's jelly. And I could not think of the word. So I had to say jelly. And to me, it's like, I know the word jelly. I know, I see the red stuff and the purple stuff. I know what I'm talking about. But something somewhere in the head didn't connect. And that's what I fear that, at some point, it's got to start. Mm-hmm. And so is this the moment it starts? And if like a day like yesterday where there was multiple times where I couldn't pull it together.
I felt
it's
bad
like,
for you.
Ooh. Usually it's one thing, but so many things.
Well, would like to interject for both of you, though. Understand. Murphy, you've always said I'm a super balanced person.
You are.
Most of the time I am. One day I'll go off the deep end, I'm sure. But I'm super balanced most of the time. I'm able to bring myself back in. Even if I go off the rails a little bit, sometimes I'm able to be very balanced. And you guys both need to know that your self-talk is very important. Your self-talk might be the most important thing you hear in any given day. Mm-hmm. So stop telling yourself that you're having a jelly moment. You're just having a day.
A moment.
And you will be strong again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Likely.
Well, look, I mean.
You know what I'm saying? It's okay to have an off day, but for whatever reason, men do not let themselves do it. My dad was the same way. That's why men are not good when they're sick. When my dad had a cold, he was dying, And we would make fun of that and pick, but I think that's because that's the whole heavy lies the crown of being a man and thinking you have to be the man all day long.
But it's like with me though, it's all in. I know you joke about the Eeyore, but it all goes through
that filter.
I instantly jump to worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. It's not like I just had a bad day or a couple of blips. I'll be back on it in 20 minutes. It's just like, is this it? Am I starting to lose it? But even though up here I know I'm not losing it, it snowballs on itself.
Yeah, it's easy. I can understand how that's frustrating. The only thing that helps me, and it's really weird to explain this, and I don't know that I'll do a great job. But I think Jodi knows what I'm talking about. My perspective on a lot of things probably is the same as it was when I was 22 or 20 years old, meaning that I'm always focused on the next thing, the next growth moment, the next anything. And I know at some point the reality of that stops, but I've got to think that also helps propel us later on in life. Because I have friends that are in their late 40s right now that use all this terminology about they're old and they're this, that, and the other. And again, look, everybody's got a right to feel their way. I'm not discrediting that. However, if you tell yourself that you're old at 48, you're probably going to act that way. You know what I mean?
Your self-talk is important.
Right. And so it's sort of like you were talking about looking at the video the other day. When the reason you don't see yourself that way in the video truly is probably because your mind is the other way. And what we do for a living here every day, which is about what's going on currently in the world, it keeps you in that place. At least that's my 2 cents on it. So it becomes extra frustrating because, you actually do forget the physical realities of some of this. I mean, as you start to age, your body does change. It's just a fact.
Nothing you can do about
right,
that.
Exactly.
I mean, you can do things, but you can't. You need to accept things.
Yeah, I don't feel like doing Sudoku puzzles, for the rest of my life to keep sharp.
You know what, my grandmother, this always
suggest that.
This, This cracked me up. My grandmother. So my grandmother lived to be 97. We called her Heidi. If you've listened to the show for any longer period of time, then you know that part of it. That she was very mentally alert and connected, probably until her early 90s. And we do believe that it was some form of dementia. By that time, she just wasn't in a good enough health to go through diagnostics and that sort of thing. And so, in the last 2 to 3 years of her life, she was not mentally aware of things that were going on. But by the time you get to be 97, there's probably a chance that that's going to happen, that you're going to outlive your mind, possibly. But when she was in her 80s, she would crack me up because she would forget something or couldn't remember something. She's like, "Oh, honey, I just started taking these memory pills. I'm hoping they'll help." And it's like, memory pills? Let me see the bottle.
Yeah.
she handed it to me. It really is just like this combination of vitamin B12, B vitamins and C vitamins and all that kind of stuff. But she called those her memory pills. And I just always thought that was funny because it's just that generation, because they really were the first generation to have a pill for everything.
Yeah. I also think that, it's just expecting a lot of yourself, which I understand that. I do understand that. I expect a lot of myself every day. But if I have a day where things are off, I know that it doesn't mean that that's the new.
Yeah.
Right? I know that it ebbs and flows. That's why I'm better at being sick, even though I'm not sick very often. Does that make sense?
It's up to me, for me and my body and my brain to keep it together personally as long as I can.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
And I fear that at some point I won't have the control anymore.
Yeah, I think that's natural. I think that's like Jodi's grandfather not being able to drive anymore because he can't see well or read well. Those are all those things that were things, because those are all empowering things that you're talking about. And some of the most basic things are the things that later in life, but the thing is, knowing that any of those things could happen doesn't mean that you should try to focus on that part of it right now.
Yeah,
and but the other thing too, I mean, as you and I have worked together for the better part of 28 years now, which is hard to believe, Sam. And I think you're at the best place in your life ever since I've known you. You know what I mean? You have more things, right? Exactly.
I'm single and I don't drink, so that's two good things.
So I mean, look, I find that how Jodi says keep the wow.
Yeah.
That really is when you start having those moments, you also, as time goes on, when you are thankful for things or grateful for moments that are great things that have happened to you or great things that you've done, there's nothing wrong with taking a minute to go, well, yeah, you know what? I mean, this is cool. At least I've done this,
Yeah.
And
that's what keep the wow is positive self-talk.
Right.
How many people can say they've been married 3 times? Not like that, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Whenever we talk about, stopping drinking, for example, and it's something I don't, think about a lot or whatever, and we tend to joke about it and we make fun, but there are moments where I'm really grateful that at the end of the day I did it again. I mean, in other words,
every day,
and I don't even
time thing.
Yeah, and I don't think about that every day either. It may be
either.
once a year or something like that, and you're like, wow, man, wow. And the gratitude really kind of comes from not being that person that I know that I was becoming, sloppy and all that other whatever stuff I was. That's what makes me
that kind of thing to me. That impresses me, from me personally, but that I was able to pull out of that, and still maintain it as long as I have, and that I can walk past the liquor section or see a beer commercial going, that sounds like a delicious new flavor of beer.
Right.
Or like now, everybody's into these seltzers and all that stuff. It's like, well, I'll miss that trend, but it's like,
oh, wow.
Oh, well.
Luckily, it doesn't matter to me
Very
anymore.
good. Oh, my gosh, both of you.
And that to me is like, wow, that I'm to the point where it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That means that's like giving yourself the credit then. You should
so there's my non-Eeyore
enjoy
moment.
that at least.
That is your non-Eeyore moment. Well, you know what? And it's funny. The longer you'd have stayed with alcohol, or I would have too, that would start to impair memory at some point too. That causes damage. So you know what?
There's a joke.
You know what though? Even that too. That's another one that plays on me. Did I do enough damage to myself that I'm going to bring this on sooner? And is that why I have a day like I had yesterday?
No, it's not. It's because you're human.
Yeah.
It's because you're human.
I need to
Everybody
remove all that
happier
stuff.
now. Happier now. Work on your self-talk.
Well, I guess so.
No bother.
Missed any part of the show? Get it all at murphysamandjody.com.